G'day and welcome to another episode of SPCs Unleashed. Actually, soon to be slightly renamed because you might have noticed we're not talking about safe very much anymore. Although I know at least Nico and Stephan are still doing a lot of safe work. If it doesn't have anything to do with AI, I'm pretty much not talking about it anymore. But funnily enough, we're going to talk about the way different types of organizations are thinking and talking about AI right now. And Nico is our host this week, so I'll hand the floor over. Take us away.
Thank you, Mark. I still like the unleash part. So let's see what we are going to unleash this day. Will it be a camel? Will it be an eagle? What will it be? I wasn't unleashed the whole power because the idea was I wanted having AI introducing us in the episode, and it failed the last hour. It was just an idea when I woke up. So I was really late for the podcast and put my mates in not a good mood. So, oh God. He did something wrong. Is he still sleeping? No, I was trying. AI introduced us. So at the end, ended up introducing you again. So we're talking about camels. We're talking about eagles. We'll talk about moments in history. And Mark will tell many stories. I've seen Stephan prepared many graphics. I'm not sure if we are able to show them or if he just gives the voiceover. I really felt lousy prepared when I've seen your answers. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion. And at the end, for you as an audience, is always the question, what's happening with the organization? Will it survive as a camel or as whatever it is? Or will it start to fly, maybe like an eagle? And if you think, oh, what is the Swiss guy talking about? Did he smoke some Ricola or something like that? No, it's just, you will see it in the jiggle later on. But let's start with passions. Mark, what is your passion on this topic, not on AI? That's well known if you follow your LinkedIn. But what is your passion on this episode?
So I think for me, was it 15 years that like basically pretty much every gig I did was a safe gig. And if you're doing safe gigs, by definition, you're working with camels, according to this episode's metaphor, right? The big, slow-moving enterprises, because that was where safe played. And, you know, you knew that if you were working with banks and telcos and insurance companies, what I would always mentor young coaches with was the number one skill you need is patience, because they change really slowly and you've got to be prepared to work at that pace. But I kept myself a little bit sane because I always had a little bit of a sprinkle of maybe 20% of my work working with small, nimble companies, maybe startups or perhaps startups in their scaling phases, who would achieve more change in 3 months than my typical enterprise customer would achieve in 2 years. And it was like it kept me energized. My particular passion when it comes to this concept of, you know, the typical enterprise versus the extreme AI company is the fact that I can kind of really reposition to go, you know what, why don't I do the vast majority of my work with these smaller companies that are eager to change? And I'm not stuck trying to figure out how to get banks and insurance companies to reinvent themselves because I'm not using safe anymore. So that's me and my passion. What about you guys?
Stephan.
Yeah, let me use my passion for road cycling to introduce my real passion about AI. As I'm getting older, I love long endurance rides. But now and then there's kind of a temptation, if there's a rolling hill, to see how fast can I get? Can I put in an interval, right? And if you're using programs or applications like Strava, there are certain comms or king of the mountain or queen of the mountain. There are certain parts on a landscape where you can try to beat others. And that's how I feel nowadays with AI. And I like mastery, if it's a hobby, if it's your job, to show that you master something. And I hope we will talk about that one. It reminds me of some moments in my professional life, like the 70s, the 80s, where I saw that if you don't move with the times, you'll be left behind. And I don't want to do that. That's my passion.
Cool. It resonates also with me. So I have a passion that's also a fear. Maybe it connects very well what Stephan said. It's the whole speed thing. It's really exponential speed. I really like playing around. I like being productive with AI. But if I see how fast the speed is, you just don't read 1 week the news and you're already outdated. And that's a passion because I love to be on the edge or being up to date. But on the other hand, it gives some kind also of a pressure. So my passion and fear is this whole speed part. Yeah, we're all getting older, and I hope we can stay at the race as we are now at the moment. So thank you very much for your patience. No, for your passions. Gosh. English.
We're always
And Mark
patient.
is laughing. That's nice.
It's been a long time since we had a great moment of Swinglish. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there it's back. So let's have a look, Mark. You talk about your safe enterprises moving slow. At least they are moving. That's a good sign. They're not buildings, they are moving. So what's the difference between such typical big companies or typical companies comparing to extreme AI organizations? What do you think?
look, I think, and I'll probably parallel it back a little bit. So I've been working on this adaptation of the Zapier AI fluency model. And, part of what's happened as I've been working on the adaptation with the client I'm working with is Zapier, obviously, when you look at some of their roles, they set expectations by nature of the type of product that Zapier is. They set expectations that probably weren't too realistic for companies that are not producing quite as technical a product. So there was a part where we looked at the fluency model and we said, how do we downgrade it a little bit? And then, of course, as I've been deepening the model, I've been doing all this research into best practices and so on and so forth. And I think the instant thing in my head when I thought about extreme AI was all of these AI-driven startups that I watch conference presentations by, right? The Mid-Journeys, $200 million valuation with 11 employees. The Windsurfs, right? The Windsurfs, like $2 billion with 50 employees or some small number. I think I've seen a lot of different numbers quoted for Windsurf. But, these companies that are sitting there where the ratio of agents to humans is kind of crazy. But then you kind of got to dial it back and you got to say, well, actually, to be sensible, not everybody is a darling Silicon Valley AI-driven startup. So when I think about an extreme AI organization, I think it's like every member of the organization is growing in their AI fluency. They're given access to the best tools. They're acquiring the knowledge and the supporting infrastructure to use them safely. And most importantly, they've got a mindset where they just challenge themselves every day. And they ask the question, maybe it's every day, maybe it's every hour. Actually, I kind of like every hour to go, if I look back at the last hour, how could AI have helped me work smarter and compete better in the market? And that constant reflection and that thirst to grow, that to me is the extreme AI organization.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. It resonates somehow. Something I experienced, was it last week, in a training where we just tried to put an eye on something. And then I realized the colleague next to me said, I'm just automating a shitty process. Why the hell I'm doing that? So why am I using just AI to do the same things I'm doing? It should be differently. It should bring me new ideas. It should bring new ways of working. And then we realized, it's something we learned in the first days. We should bake AI in and not bolt on. And that was a really cool example of it's really should be part of it. Like you said, Mark, part of your innovation. How can you improve and not how can you do faster the things you're doing now? And I really loved this comment. So what the heck am I doing here? I'm just automating a shitty process with AI. And that was for me the aha moment and the good story for bake it in and not bolt it on.
It's interesting to listen to you guys. And what popped up in my head is if you look at the Formula One race, we talked about speed, right? It's really fast. Every driver has a personal race engineer. This race engineer has lots of data coming in, being visualized, getting immediate feedback from the car, even combined with audio, radio from the driver, stuff like that. And I think this is the big difference. Traditionally, we rely on line organizations. You do have some anatomy in your organization. You have some processes, you have some events, you have some roles, you have, it's like in a human body, it's physiology. But what's really missing, what we move away in organizations is neurology. How do you steer that whole mess, right? Something's going on. And for me, the extreme AI company or organization is not built around, first of all, anatomy and physiology. It's thinking from how do you steer, how do you control a system? And for that, you need autonomous systems, because if I'm walking in my garden, I'm not thinking about how do I walk. I think about where do I walk to? How fast do I walk there? And I'm not thinking about do my legs work? It's autonomous, it's working. Then, but I want real-time coordination. Maybe I'm looking for something. My missus tells me, hey, go more to the left. That's probably where you left your tool the last time you were in the garden, right? And I think what's really challenging us is going into this predictive analytics. Going back to the race engineer during a Formula One race, you don't only get the data, you don't only aggregate data, have dashboards, it's predictive. It might tell you something for the pit stop, because you might have tactics, you might have some strategy, how to go into the pit stop with your two cars. But now predictive analytics tells you differently and says, let's come in earlier because, or there is a tendency, or there is something in the future. If you don't accept it, you can neglect it, but hey, don't beat me if it doesn't work. And that's the big difference between traditionally being reactive, going into this proactive thing. And that's the challenging stuff. And that's the interesting stuff I see as an extreme AI organization. But that means, hey, we have to change some stuff in a radical way. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
I have to say,
you're smiling.
Yeah.
So I'm smiling, right? Because the bit that we don't broadcast on the live stream is that we have a very fluid agenda board that we all kind of can see, which is like, what's coming next? What's the next bit of the conversation? I've been watching Nico go, are we going to go and talk about planning, or are we going to talk about data? Are we going to, because like as Stephan talked, it was like planning data, planning data, planning data. That's why I'm smiling. What did you decide in the end, Nico?
It really also opened a new question, but I think we'll go through data. I like the analogy. You have to think about how you work. But if you're really an old organization, so you have some kind of the things in your muscle memory, but when you're becoming an older and older, this muscle memory somehow not got lost. But sometimes I think when I watch my mother walking that she still thinks what is the next step to do without falling. But unfortunately, big organizations are not in the stage that they're thinking what they have to do and take the chance to do something like walking more, go outside, do more gym, or go to a physiotherapist or AI native agent or AI agent or whatever. That was triggers me. So, okay, do we go and ask why are they not able to change? But I think you opened just the door about data, and I think I would like to go there and ask you about if you go this extreme AI organizations, what's different about data? And Stephan, you already started a little bit. You want to continue about the data stuff?
Yeah. Let me pick up the analogy, right? As a human being, there's a part anatomy, there's a part physiology, there's the part of neurology. And I see data as a continuous autonomous, and that's what I want to stress, autonomous organizational nervous system. Some is done without me perceiving it as it's working, and some is used by my brain to really have a support in real-time predictive decision-making, right? And we all know as human beings, some of my decisions ethically were not good. I was a bad guy. I was doing stuff not in an honest way. So for me, data is really crucial, and it's there if I'm using it or not. Do I create a system that really is able to do it continually in an autonomous way, but also then serving me, how do I use that stream of data? And I like the notion of stream of data, because data is not something that is fixed. It's now it's a snapshot. 10 seconds later, it's totally different snapshot, because data is changing, data is evolving, some data is disappearing. So for me, what we probably could discuss later on when we go into more planning is, how do you use this intelligence for planning? Nowadays, we have huge planning meetings. We have huge reporting systems. Why not replace it with some autonomous intelligence that gives me the right data at the right time at my fingertips. That's how I look at data in a between a typical organization or heading into what's extreme AI doing for me.
There's so many stories running through my head right now. One of the
It's good.
stories is, oh my goodness, we could do so many episodes just about data, right?
Yep.
But the first thing that ran through my head when I was doing the prep in response to Nico's triggers was to go, how many data transformations have I been a part of in the past? And I suspect maybe because the first thing I ever did with SAFE was using it for an enterprise data warehouse, I've done quite a few. And so I've seen the speeches about the importance of data to organizations. I've seen the speeches about, data literacy, about, data as an asset that empowers everything else, right? We've always known data is really important and organizations have always really struggled to actually respond to that call. Because what I've seen with a lot of data transformations is, like many other transformations, they start with a lot of energy and then run out of steam before they reach the destination. One of the things I would say really about AI, and it's really consistent, is AI shortens your feedback loops. And there's an interesting net effect to that. And I'm going to pick a personal story and then a slightly work-oriented story. Here's the personal story. I was just chatting to my daughter. Went for a walk in the park with the dog. She's an engineer. She lives in a world where, they're in a probably typical pseudo-agile state. And she was sharing some complaints with me because Eric Willicke made a post about the way that people basically get story points completely wrong the other day. And we had a bit of an interaction about it. And she shared a screenshot with me last night and went, I'm going to show this to my team because everything you're joking about is everything we do with story points. And we chatted a little bit more. And I have if I look at the way that I personally approach planning, and let's think about planning as data, right? Because everything is data. Traditionally, the way I've approached planning is I go, I hate Jira, I refuse to use it. I'm not going to use Trello or something like that. And, Miro Kanbans, because then at least I feel like I'm almost putting sticky notes on a wall. But if I look at my history of Miro Kanbans, what will generally happen is I get busy, I get distracted, the Kanban gets out of date. And then I go, I want to get organized again. And I go back and I look at where the Kanban was when I left it. And I go, it's too much work. I'm going to start again. I get a fresh Kanban. So I could probably pull out 20 Kanban systems that I've developed and started using over the last 5 or 6 years and go, oh, this is the period that I used it for. And this is when it fell apart. And I know there's value in being organized, but I don't particularly stay organized with it. Now I've got an agent that updates it all for me because I like to be able to do that thing where when I sit down on a Monday morning, I say, what's next? And it says, this is what you're working on Friday. This is what also you've got on the go. This is the stuff you've got planned in your near-term backlog. Do you want to pick up where you left off? Do you want to start on something else that you've had parked? Or do you want to pick something else off the backlog? Or do we need to do something different? And because I've got the data all organized, it can support that. And I can have a very lightweight thing where it constantly keeps me organized. And I had a couple of days during this week where I may have just disappeared into the tunnel a little bit because I was working on something really fun. And I did a whole bunch of work and my planning system fell behind. But my data was organized enough that I could open up my agent again and go, yeah, my plan's a bit of a mess. Here's what I've been doing. Can you help me get it back in order? And 10 minutes work and my plans were still coherent again. So there's this benefit that says, if your data's in order, you get to use it. And if your data's not in order, AI is really good at helping you get it back into order. But if you point AI at horrendously messy data, you're probably not going to get good things from it. And this is this self-reinforcing loop of data is about, is it in a fit state for people to use? Is it consistent and coherent? Do we avoid duplication? All those things that make data useful. How rapidly does my reward come for actually putting them into that state and keeping them in that state? And if the reward comes fast, it takes me into a, if I'm thinking about carrot and stick, it's not the stick that says thou shalt keep your data clean and your plans in order and Jira will satisfy the standards and blah, blah, blah. It's the carrot that says, hey, if everything's in order, look at how much of your life is so much easier and how much more effectively you can work and how much more insight you can get.
May I add to that? May I quickly add to that one? You triggered something, Mark. We're talking about extreme AI organizations of the future. How about our education system? It's based on traditional methods, traditional dealing with data, right?
Yeah.
That means from an early age, you should be able to deal differently with data. And as you described, how does it help? Do I learn that at an early stage? When I'm going then to college or university, I'm using it, easing my life, and it's not regurgitating data, learning stuff, and then spill it out again. Oh, I'm the pro. No, I know how to use it, right?
You opened so many points to enter this discussion. I will choose 5 of them simultaneously. No,
Focus.
as an engineer, I was not really a friend of data. Oh gosh, now I lose the whole audience. No, why? Because data were really messy and they were just interpretable. So you can just make your own truth out of it. So data weren't there. That's the truth. It's just depending on how you read the data. You have again 2 people being sure they are on the right side. So I just get used to ignore data and try to mediate and try to find a solution for the people. You also know this from coaching. There's no truth. It's just what people construct as a truth, and that's why I never really believed in data. That's one entry point in this discussion. When you talk about education system, you also talk about how you handle conflicts, how you talk to your classmates, and data sometimes it's not something you learn. It's just it's somewhere. And then, by the way, I was happy when I can say, oh, it's about data protection. I'm not allowed to use this. That's what's so cool for me. So if you can just say, I don't love data, so I don't use them, data protection. I'm so sorry. Let's do it without data. But yeah, that's a stupid way of continue going because you need this data. So one important point would be your data is ready, that your data has a quality, that your data is accessible. And I think that's the direction we have to steer. Having accessible data, imagine you have to go back 5 years to have data. Yeah, good luck. The systems are now 3 generations later, so you will not have the data. And maybe you're not allowed to store all the data, so you have to think about which data do I need, etc. Data protection again. So I think the most important part, how AI companies deal, or extreme AI companies deal with data, is they make them as first-class citizens in their environment. And they think, how do I need the data that I can use them and not store everything? Because storage costs nothing, I store everything, and then good luck and use the data in a structured way.
I think the other thing I'd really point out, and just emphasizing that in terms of the Extreme AI organization, the Extreme AI organization recognizes that data is the fuel of pretty much every AI modality, right? It's not just Gen AI, it's every AI modality. They live on data. Is it input data? Is it training data? Is it evaluation data? Is it feedback data? But also, is that data in a state where it's actually accessible and leverageable? And there's a little trick, right? For example, if you think about your company's strategy and you go, where's the data that defines your company's strategy? Well, with most organizations, they'd say it's in this PowerPoint deck. But then if you scan a little bit further, you go, somebody else goes, actually, it's slightly different in this PowerPoint deck as well, right? And if you really want it all, you probably need 10 different PowerPoint decks to start to go, okay, maybe we can build a complete and coherent picture from across those 10 PowerPoint decks. But at the same time, as long as those buried in those PowerPoint decks, it's not particularly leverageable by AI.
Yeah.
And if you want to know why, attach a PowerPoint to ChatGPT or your tool of choice and say, produce this as a knowledge file for me, right? And see what happens as it tries to interpret what's in the PowerPoint file and turn it to something you can use. And yeah, it'll do a pretty good job. It'll sometimes do a surprisingly good job, but it'll also do a disturbing job in terms of you figuring out what it can't see. And a lot of people go, oh, I can give my AI access to some strategy data. I'll just attach a PowerPoint deck. And it's going through that layer of translation. And not only that, but there's 10 different PowerPoint decks and 10 different attachments. So getting to that point that says, right, if we're going to be extreme AI, we've always got to think any time of data, right, where we curate it, where we master it. If we're not thinking this has to be usable by both humans and AI, we're nowhere. Everything we do with data has to serve the both audiences.
Yet I think this is also an important part. The data have to be in a way structured that the machines can access them and use them. I've seen so many PowerPoints, strategy PowerPoints. I'm sure if you just try to analyze it, not from a point of I can see this and understand how management is ticking and what belongs to what, I think it's quite difficult to find the right data. So I had many surprises with AI, what they've chosen from the data and what's not, and what they're not able to see, even if it's there, just because some talented people in PowerPoint used every little feature they have, which doesn't make sense in in a way how it is structured, but it makes in a way sense if you just look on it. It's just a nice slide, but yeah, good luck in extracting information. But let's continue with the first question I want to ask you is why are the traditional enterprises not able to continue in this pace? So
Stephan,
how to
looks like
explain
you're
it
keen to
better?
go.
Yeah.
I had a few initial thoughts, and I was using my AI agent to sort it. And what popped up is 5 different areas why probably traditionally enterprises or organizations are too slow. The first one is, we already talked about it, speed, but not only speed, how do you scale up, right? So it's traditionally, you have this decision-making boards, you have meetings, you have periodic coordination cycles. And now if we are going AI extreme, it's machine speed, but you need human oversight, right? You need an interaction. You need something that is continuously optimizing on its own, but you have entry points to steer it. Discussions I had with Mark before the show, right? You want the system to do something and the system doesn't behave like you thought it should, right? It can go either way. It can go, okay, new frontiers open, or no, you're out of bound. Come on, let's go back. Then we just talked about the information processing. Traditionally, we are the limiting factor as human beings because our cognitive capacity is probably much bigger than we think, but we're only using like 5 to 10%. And we do manual analysis. AI extreme, parallel processing, quantum computing, pattern recognition across vast data sets. And I'm not limited by APIs anymore. I have access to that data. I have access to data lakes, whatever it is, right? Third area is adaptation capability. Our adaptation, even in a so-called lean and agile setup, is reactive. We have inspect and adapt, and we have retrospectives after the show. The party is over. The buffet is killed. And we try to figure out what could we do better for the next time, right? And now AI extreme, predictive. Going back to the race engineer. There's not only the race engineer for Hamilton, there's a second one for his teammate. And now you start scaling up, and now you start reacting in a predictive way. You talk about scenarios. I'm sure those engineers talk to each other and say, hey, what if my mate is coming in before yours, or how do we do that? Fourth one, coordination. Coordination is huge. If you think about a human body, right? If one little piece moves away, deviates, gets astray, I'm a mess as a human being. I'm not working perfect anymore. So what do we do in a traditional organization? Meeting-based coordination. It's too late. And by the way, if I join meetings and if I don't like my mates at the table, and if I don't have a good relationship, I'm probably not conveying data to them that are crucial for decision making. AI extreme, it's automated coordination, intelligent conflict resolution, like laying on the table, 100% transparent. Guys, this is your problem. This is how we can solve it. Say yes or no, or adapt to the situation. And the fifth one, you just mentioned that, Nico, is if you want to go AI extreme, and that pops up a few times a day when I'm in AI land, is how do you get governance in, right? Traditionally, policy-based. Mark, you mentioned the Kanban systems, right? We have policies for each state, right? Oh, it's tedious to go in. Oh, I should do this. What is the definition of ready? What is the definition of done? And it's always human interpretation. Mark has a different interpretation of a policy than I have, than Nico has. And now AI extreme says, hey, we have ethics baked in the governance, and AI constantly is reminding us, is asking for accountability. I probably don't need specific roles. I need a good AI-driven, ethics-based governance that holds me accountable to what I do, no matter if I'm on a team level, if I'm on a team of team level, if I'm on a strategic level, or if I'm on a tactical, operational, strategic level. It doesn't matter. It's all in the system. And that's a huge change, right? And I think these 5 areas will probably define if you start flying or if you're still on the ground pretending flying.
You
I feel
just gave me
so sorry. Go, Nico.
Yeah.
It's yours, mate.
You just gave me a new trigger, and also I've seen a nice comment on LinkedIn. You talk about the system that has to change. We have also people in the system that have to change. So I know it's not a question for the audience, but it gave me a trigger how to change personalities. So usually, as a boss, you hire people that suits you, that you see something in them, and you're not AI native or AI extreme. You're just in an environment where your company is maybe slow, or a bank or whatever. You don't have the mindset for that. So you have now people with the same old mindset. How do you change that?
We'll talk about skill sets next time, right? And that
okay.
will probably answer that question. If they can hold on, join us next time.
So, exactly. So we have really a cliffhanger of the next episode. Mark, I interrupted you. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I feel very unstructured after watching the way Stephan approached that.
Sorry.
So I'm going to take a stance, right? This is not a new problem.
Yeah, right.
I've been playing with Agile for 25 years, right? The whole notion of we need faster planning cycles and better adaptation capability, like it's been baked in for an awful long time. We've all worked with a lot of companies trying to help them do this. And so the messages, the motivations, the challenges for the people, they're all there. But weirdly enough, I've found myself recently remembering and referring to a whole bunch of my old extreme programming analogies. And, the XP guys would say, turn it up to 11. And I think if you think about the discussions we've had about digital disruption and the need for change in our Agile journeys, I don't think AI turns that dial up to 11. I think dial turns it up into hundreds in terms of the pace of possibility and change and adaptation and disruption that we're heading into. And so if you think about it, well, if you're a large enterprise, what are you doing? Well, you're running an annual planning cycle, and the annual planning cycle is part of a 3-year planning cycle. And the annual planning cycle is not actually planning a year ahead, because you start planning the annual planning cycle 9 months before the year starts. Mm-hmm. So you're on a plan that generally is 18 months in the making about what should be happening. I just want you to stop for a second and reflect back to the state of AI 18 months ago. How's your plan feeling? What could you do with AI? What were people doing with AI? What was AI itself capable of 18 months ago? That was really, really different. Any plan you made that was predicated on that, where's the shredder? Because it's not going to be relevant anymore. And let's dial down, right? Let's go to the quarterly plan. Well, if you stay close to AI and you go, what's changed in the world of AI in the last quarter? You're still in trouble. 3 months is a long time in the world of AI. Just go and watch any AI thought leader talking at a conference. And if 3 months comes up, they will talk about it being a generation or an epoch ago. Right? So quarterly planning cycle. Oh my goodness. Now, in theory, right, and in theory, we've been playing with SAFe for 15 years. In theory, it was SAFe. We went, wow, we do objective-based planning, and that means we know where we're trying to go, and what we're doing is we're adapting the way in which we figure out how to get there. But you look around your traditional enterprise and tell me how many of them are actually using PI planning like that. Right? It's kind of like
Almost
story
none.
Points, right? There's a theory about why story points are a wonderful thing. There's a practice that most organizations, by the time they figure out how they should actually use story points the way they're intended, they don't need them anymore. And you can talk to you blue in the face about run objective-based planning and have adaptation to your quarterly planning cycles and so on and so forth. The truth is they haven't been figuring it out before. They're not going to figure it out now. But what are you looking for? What's your pace of learning? And how does your pace of learning drive your ability to adapt and adjust and compete? 3 months is now too long. But I'm going to add one more flavor, and this is back a little bit to what you touched on in a much more structured way when you talked about coordination, Stephan. I still remember the very first time I ever got to do PI planning. And it was a crazy PI plan. It was super, super complex. And they were at management review, there were 100 features they'd taken into the room, right? They'd ignored all common sense there, and they had to get it down to 7. And we were there till midnight on how do we pick the top 7 features. That's what the teams are actually capable of doing. And the one that came out as number 1, nobody actually believed in, but the CEO was driving it, and it was a very large enterprise. And so it's like, we've got no choice. That has to be number 1 because it's the CEO's baby. And a week after PI planning, I walked in to visit, and they said, the feature's been pulled. because it was meant to do some kind of automated reach out to customers, and their legal people had come back and said, you can't do that because of privacy constraints. And it was like, I looked over and I went, yes, this is a victory for adaptive planning. Everybody knew it was the wrong top priority, and now we can adjust. The trouble was, because of their structure, when you pulled that feature out, the level of disruption to everybody's plans was huge, and they didn't handle that particularly well. And actually, the PI kind of fell apart because of it. And when we got to the end of the PI, they went, actually, if we just delivered it and we hadn't pulled it, we probably would have achieved more, because their ability to stay aligned after PI planning had not been capable of withstanding that level of disruption and adaptation. And I've seen that just a few times since then. PI planning is great. 2 days, we get on the same page. How do we stay on the same page? That's a different question. So you've got to start to think about, can I have the coherence for me to be able to maintain alignment and forward trajectory together, given a pace of learning? And then can I approach planning horizons in a way that acknowledges the pace of learning and disruption that's happening? Or do I just want to wait for my Kodak moment?
For me, it sounds like, Mark, that the plan, do, check, act cycle is not a plan, do, check, act cycle anymore, or adjust cycle or whatever. It's more like a experiment, check, fast plan, and continue experimenting. It sounds like something like that. And it's how I feel sometimes. As you know, we are organizing a conference in Zurich, and we thought, maybe we can give a book away, because last year we had Robin and Suzette as keynote speakers, so we gave away her industrial DevOps book as a giveaway. This time we will have somebody from Scaled Agile, Arun. He wrote a book. I think it's 1 year old. So I wrote him, what do you think if you just buy your book and give it away to the people? And he wrote back, oh gosh, it's outdated already. And I thought, why outdated? It's just a year old. This can't be. And that's my question, my answer to the question on LinkedIn. Do you have any books on AI and Agile and Safe? Yeah, but usually it's in a museum. So if I give you a book that it's published 9 months ago, it's already outdated. I think people will not publish books. They will publish ebooks, short ones, having a collection of papers that are updated once in a while. So I personally have no book tips, because things I read yesterday, and you will see also one question that Mark asks, it's already outdated. It's numbers from a week. He asking about why 85% of companies fail. It's 95, the new studies. It was just 1 week later, we have new data. But we'll come later to this. So maybe we'll have some tips on LinkedIn and write some books. But yeah, it's really the thing I said in the beginning, the joy, it's also the fear, this exponential learning. So planning is difficult, learning is difficult. And you said something about XP or our history. So I remembered when we changed from a linear way in a VUCA world, so it's everything volatile, uncertain, etc. Now even this is just the past. It's just completely different. We are in a world where everything's exponential, where everything is disruptive. It's emergent. So it's really a complete different thing. You do things at once. You have several experiments running at the same time. It's not just one experiment and then the next. So in the AI native training I was there, they created a new acronym. They called it EDGE, for exponential, disruptive, generative, emergent, which I really liked. The problem is if you're ahead of EDGE, you fall down. But that's another thing. It's just a picture. But I liked the idea to say we're not in a VUCA world anymore. We are one step further. And that was the impressive part of it. So they are not keeping track with the planning cycles, the normal organization, the traditional organization. We need a completely new way of working again. And with that, I would like to go to our jiggle, because it's more than half time. And this time was the question, or the podcast for the day is traditional enterprise versus extreme AI organization. So I thought, if a camel could ever become an eagle, how a camel can become an eagle, and should it become at all? Mark, you asked the whole family.
I'm going, right, because my wife walked in, and, just for slight distraction, you'll probably notice the style of our thumbnails has changed a lot this season. Because just for fun, I went, I'm going to make a custom GPT that takes the jiggle and helps generate a DALL-E prompt to create a thumbnail that's a little bit of fun for the episode. And she was walking in actually to hand me a cup of tea, as she does beautifully often. And I had the thumbnail for this one that Nico had created. And I said, see, look at that. Because I love to show off all the cool geeky things I do with AI, and she humors me. And she looked and she went, what's it trying to say? Like, is a camel meant to be bad? And I went, that's really obvious, surely, right? Why would you want to be on a camel when you can ride an eagle? And she responds, she's like, but there's all these cool things about camels. And actually, if you do the research, the hump enables them to survive long periods without sustenance because it's a great place to store things. And then you can look at the way that their blood's adapted to suit the environment they live in. And there's all these things that make camels really, really special so long as you want to survive in the desert, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to live in the desert, you'd pretty much never choose to be an eagle because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't do well surviving there. And I'm sure there are a lot of enterprises who will survive by plodding along, right? Because let's face it, Kodak, when things went bad for them, they had a pretty big hump full of reserves that got them along for a few years. And some of those Kodaks may well survive on the other side, plodding along, especially adapted to your desert location. Life's good. Me, I like to fly.
Yeah, let me second that, Mark. I'm on the same line, right? There are camels. They're built for endurance, long distance, slow traveling. There's hawks and eagles for fast hunting. And in the Arab country, no one probably would talk about how can we breed flying camels. That's not effective, right? So you have to choose your battle. You have to choose, are you specializing and how are you using AI? So there's room for camels, as you said, but some have to evolve into eagles. Otherwise, you will have your Kodak moment. And Kodak try to bolt on digital stuff into a traditional world, and it failed big time. So my 2 cents here were the sky belongs to organizations willing to undergo fundamental change.
I really love your statements because enterprise are not doing this at the moment you're telling. So what they do is just to put wings on a camel and said, yeah, we are AI native. It just looks ridiculous. So putting wings on a camel, it's not a strategy. Either you stay a camel and you have people who love you, like Mark's wife, and will be proud of you, and you still can move. And but you stay in the desert, and if this is your ecosystem, stay there. It's cool. You can maybe try to do a transformation and say, yeah, just get rid of some bureaucracy, or helping becoming faster as a camel, but you stay in your environment, which is okay. It's a choice. But the world is changing, so desert becoming smaller and smaller. In real life, it's the opposite. But so it's really a choice. And if you really want to step out of this camel desert thing, then you really have to learn to gasp, or you have to learn to change. You have to become an eagle if you want to, and if it makes sense for the market, or you stay a camel. But please don't put wings on a camel. Nobody loves it. Never seen. Never seen working. So thank you for that, for the activation of the other brain side. We talked a lot about the machines, about AI. I would like to know from your side, humans are still important. So they are in the loop. And Mark did a very great post last days in LinkedIn about human in the loop. I just want to know from your side. Sorry, I changed the question, Mark. I'm so sorry. Where should humans be in the loop and where not? I'm sorry for that.
I'm just responding to a question from Ritik. So have my brain back now.
Sorry.
So
I changed again the order. Sorry for that.
The response was
we have some kind of a structure, but I changed the order.
Well, that's why our structure enables flow. I think there's a world where you can look at it through a safety perspective, or you can look at it from a leverage perspective. And actually, the two are kind of combined. So if you think about the leverage perspective, I watched probably my favorite YouTube channel is called AI Engineering, and they have a really good pace of content coming out. They have conference presentations. They have a lot of people who build AI tools talking about, a little bit of a plug for their tools, but also a lot of ideas behind them. And somewhere along the way, quite early in my going crazy about AI stage, somebody said, you got to think about the leverage, right? When you're achieving something and a human and AI are working together, what's the leverage the AI is giving you? So what percentage of the effort comes from your agents? What percentage of the effort comes from your humans? And the whole idea is what you're trying to do as you build an AI skill is to be able to achieve more leverage from the agent. And either that's knowing how to get it to do more for you, knowing how to add tools that will help it do more for you. And that was probably the real thread that I looked at it from the beginning, was to go, how do I reduce the amount of human required to increase the amount of AI contribution to get more done with less? And then I started to learn about safety with AI and hallucinations and guardrails and the need for evals and token cost and all the other stuff. And it was like, well, actually, the biggest reason for human in the loop is not that I don't necessarily have the skill anymore, but that I have built the solidity of capability that allows me to be less involved. And so I think that for me is like thinking about your interaction model, right? Where do you trust? How do you leverage? But also, how do you build the capability for skill? And the really the fun example I would give would be one of the projects we're working on with one of my clients is their monthly executive reporting. So this pulls data from a great big spreadsheet. It pulls data from HubSpot. It pulls data from Teams channels. And it pulls data from a couple of other places. And I was like, okay, let's do the project. And I'm working with one of the exec team on this. Is every month it's going to be just a little bit smoother is the plan. And so the first month we went, okay, well, what information does it need access to? And how do we combo the putting together the right information in a consumable format with a well-engineered prompt? And it was great fun. And he was pretty excited by what happened, but there was an awful lot of hand checking involved afterwards. And he came back at the end of the day and he said, well, it was great. And actually, I was surprised by the new insights it gave me. And I learned a lot about prompt engineering. It was great to have a project to do it with, but it was still a couple of days mucking around to make sure I trusted the result and fix some of the mistakes it made. So I was like, that's great. The next month came around, we're iteration 2 of the product. I was like, okay, let's work on hallucination management. And he, of course, had fallen for the classic trap of saying, don't do this, which GPTs love to ignore. And he'd gone down and we worked on this path of going, if you can't find this, then do that instead. And, just uplifting the prompting capability. And he came back to me at the end. He says, it's so much better this time. I loved the extra framing on it. I felt like it was a much clearer thing and much more trustworthy. And it went from a couple of days' work to feel like I could publish it to a couple of hours' work to feel like I could publish it. And so what we'd done was we'd reduced the need for the human in the loop and we changed the leverage point. But the way we changed the leverage point wasn't giving him access to fancier tools. It wasn't giving him, there was a little bit of prompt engineering technique, but most of the prompt engineering technique was around having the safety to be less involved. And I think that's the journey. You still need humans involved. You still got super valuable feedback. How are you driving that balance from an energy perspective and how are you driving the balance from a safety perspective?
Let me pick up that thread. And Nico, I probably can't answer your question because my perspective is more when I'm listening to Mark, he was talking about a human and AI authority emerging, right? And this authority has to find out what's the balance between like how much AI and where's the human in the loop, right? So this is a new authority for me and not, okay, that's this role or that role, or here's the agent. It's a combined thing. And this combined authority is dealing with organizational viability. We are talking about value streams, right? How fast do they change? How fluid are they? So that's one of the concerns you have as this human AI authority. The other one is, Mark mentioned it as well, competitive advantage, ethical operation. I see there a big thing that AI helps us to stick to the rules, to stick to ethics, to stick to governance, and constantly supporting us without going into my cupboards and finding out where is it written down. Did I understand it the right way? It's more this. There's my company with AI, like sitting on my shoulder constantly, helping me, and probably the picture should be changed. I'm probably sitting on the shoulder of AI, but sitting on that shoulder, I'm directing. I'm having a huge influence. But if I don't understand who am I sitting on the shoulder, I'm probably lost.
That's exactly my question. So if you take the eagle picture, where is the human? Is it sitting on the eagle? Is it standing next to the eagle? That was a little bit my question. So what is our role? So I just heard from Mark, he's want to get rid of us because we'll still need it, but what's exactly our role? There was some kind of question.
Let me just jump back in on that for a second, right? And the thing I'd say is, it's not so much about eliminating the need for us as eliminating the energy required from us. Right?
Yeah.
When I am working with a really well-engineered starter prompt or a really well-engineered custom GPT to get a job done, the work required from me is generally like, yes, go, no, option 1, blend of options 1 and 3, yes, converge on these 2 and regenerate. That's very low energy requirement. It's the payback I get for writing an incredibly sophisticated prompt and engineering the context and tools that surrounded that prompt. And I think that's what I try to really laser on. Like, human feedback and human evaluation is hugely valuable. But how do you lower the energy cost?
And with you, that's why I don't... please.
Let me quickly summarize that. For the eagle and the camel, you still need a handler, right? And you're the handler as the human being. The question is how much, how often, and when.
Exactly. And that's why I don't see somebody sitting on the shoulder of the eagle, but I see somebody saying, okay, giving directions. I'm not sitting there because I'm too heavy. Okay, maybe even for the camel. But I'm just next by and then giving the directions. I judge the ideas. As Mark said, option A, B, C, I say, oh, I like A better because of that and that. Please give me new options. 2 corrections because hallucination we heard before. So, are you sure? Give me sources. I think this is wrong. So, I have other sources. Have you considered that and that? So, steering direction, correct errors, judge ideas, add context, and maybe we'll see also more skills we need in the next episode for humans. With that, I would like to go to our last trigger. I skipped one. We really talked a lot and was cool. So, what's Mark's trigger? Mark, why don't you say what you came up with? And I can correct you because the numbers are wrong.
My trigger's out of date now, right? But it's pretty recent. I'm pretty sure it was Forbes published this study that said 85% of enterprise AI initiatives are failing. And that, of course, produced shockwaves through the creative world and all these kind of people, the hype bubbles burst, or all the theories, and everybody and their uncle wanted to write about it. And then apparently that's now out of date. It's 95%. I got to be honest, right? Yep. I looked at it and I went, well, I'm really unsurprised because I know what, and while I'm not working with any enterprises on AI at the moment, I've got lots of friends who are. And the story I'm getting back is all these enterprises have boards breathing down their necks about their AI strategy. And not only do the people in the enterprise know, but the vendors know that if you can somehow associate something with the words AI or the letters AI, then you're probably going to get funding. It doesn't mean it's a good idea, doesn't mean it's a good use of AI. And particularly if it's the vendor doing it for you, it doesn't mean it's actually doing anything for you as a company because you're not getting better at AI, your vendor's getting better at making money from you, right? And probably the best dissection of it I saw when, the AI native startups, they're solving clear problems with AI, they're using clear product management discipline, and they're very value focused, they're not buzz focused. They're trying to build something valuable, not satisfy their board and their shareholders that they're doing something about AI. And the place that I'd go even further with that, are you trying to come up with centralized AI initiatives that you then inflict on people? Or are you enabling people to come up with initiatives of their own and supporting them as they grow them? And this is probably the thing that I'm really loving at the moment. And, custom GPTs being an easy example, it could be Claude projects, it could be gems, it could be just prompts, right? If I look back at custom GPTs, I'd say 90% of the custom GPTs I've built over time, I really should just go and delete them because it's been an awful long time since I used them. There's like the 5% that I go back to again and again and again, and I share them with people and people use them and they give me feedback and I improve them. And this is what I'm starting to do with my clients is to go, who's got a problem they want to solve, right? And I was in a conversation yesterday where somebody said, I want an agent that helps us deal with employee onboarding and smooth it out. And let's get people together from HR and finance and tech, because between us, we own a lot of the onboarding process and maybe we can start to build something that we can iterate to make it easier for onboarding people. They're not trying to get to 100% solution. They're not trying to get to something that's zero human touch. Right? They're going to iterate and they're going to go, well, maybe just start with automated checklists because that'll make life easier. and we'll see how that's going, and we won't overbuild it. I've got another one where people are like, I want copywriting help. And, the centralized, the enterprise way of doing that would be, and my original plan, I have to confess, I would work with the marketing team and I go, let's develop brand canon. Let's take all of our brand guidelines and our palettes and all of these other things that we've developed as collateral that we probably don't have in quite the shape we'd like. Let's curate them, solidify them, establish them as a common base for the company, and then work with departments to enable departmental variations and individuals to enable individual variations, all based around this central canon. And quite possibly I would spend 6 months working with the marketing team, cleaning up the centralized canon till they felt like it was in a fit state to roll out. And, whether or not people used it by that time or it was becoming irrelevant, different question. Or I could take the approach to go, I'm going to work with a member of the SLT and go, let's develop a rubric for doing a voice and tone guide, and you can start using it to help you with editing and copywriting. That worked. Let me work with another member of the SLT guide and see what happens when you produce a version for you. And then you can start using it, and we can start to tweak it, iterate it, and figure out how to make it work really well. And what we'll do the traditional agile thing, maybe the XP thing, to go, we'll look for the patterns to emerge and we'll refactor out the base. So we'll drive it forward on energy and application and feedback, a theory and a big project before we're ready to roll it out. And every enterprise project I hear that's an investment in AI is a big bang thing.
You also gave great advice how to overcome these problems. The question why 95% is failing last week, why I have the new numbers was on a slide, and the trainer just corrected herself and said, "Oh, it's 95 now." The slide is already outdated. I hope this information is right. I never checked it. Maybe she was hallucinating, but she told us the new numbers is 95. And what they showed in this training was by the way, the AI native training from Scaled Agile. They showed us showed us blind spots, and you really summarized them well, Mark. Or you put it in your story. And if I go on a more structured way, this time I'm the Stephan between us, among us. So they've seen as blind spot the hype versus reality trap. As you said, Mark, as soon as AI on the label, you just get finance. But then at the end, you never checked it's feasible on a scale. Is it really ready for the enterprise? You just get funded. And you're not now in the next blind spot, the value gap, the POC graveyard. So you gave money to a POC, proof of concept, and you have many of those, and they never scaled. They're just there, and they become a graveyard. And the other blind spot they have, you don't think about the value. What's the value for the enterprise? You just finance everything. So these are the 3 blind spots they have seen. The people who gave the training or who developed the program said we have the value gap, we have the POC graveyard, and we have the hype versus reality, which is not checked. So much theory from my side. Stephan, you rounded up the question. Why do 95
not you,
fail?
Nico.
Sorry, not...
That is so unlike you.
Well, I would say it boils down to common sense. I'm a country boy. The question is not about when do camels try to fly or how do they try to fly. Maybe as a farmer, I have to decide, do I use the new systems, the new tractors, the new gadgets, or do I go into a specialization? Nowadays in Switzerland, we have farms specialized. They have farm shops for certain products, right? Or do I even go into an ecosystem partnership? There's many ways leading to the future. But again, common sense. What's the job to be done that Mark mentioned, right? Don't try a big bang. It probably fails. That's probably 99.9%. Again, not bolting on wings to a camel, but have a clear picture. Where are we going to? And how useful are we using AI to achieve our goals?
Thank you, Stephan, so much. Before we go to just one takeaway, those who are listening live, so shouldn't it be a 1-hour episode? Why are they running over? If you look at Spotify and at the end, it's under 1 hour. And one thing is a Mark and AI. We have an AI that just shortens the episode, takes away all the and other stuff, and we are managed to be under an hour. If you're not live, if you're live, you hear all the laughs and AIs and all the buzzy words. So we'll be still in the hour, but the live audience has to stay a little bit longer with us. Just one takeaway. This is the way we are closing the episode. For me, it's don't bolt on AI, just bake it in. Stephan.
Yeah, for me, how can we transition from a traditional organization into an extreme AI organization? In systems thinking, we have this saying, the purpose of a system is what it does. Welcome to the journey.
Proceed.
So in the world of referring to XP all the time, there was a metaphor we used to have in the XP days, which is like great engineers are fundamentally lazy. And I've had a couple of shock and awe moments with people that I've been in working sessions and coaching sessions this week, where it's like, you've just got to learn to be lazy. And they look at me and like, Mark, lazy is never a word I would associate with you. So in actually prepping for the show, I went and I Googled to find the exact quote that stuck with me all these years. And it was from Martin Fowler, who I would say was the guy who started my agile journey anyway. And the quote was this. It was from one of the XP books. I think it was XP Explained. It was the one he co-wrote with Kent Beck, or he was referenced in it. And the quote is this: "Now I'm a pretty lazy person and I'm prepared to work quite hard in order to avoid work." Take that mindset to the way you play with AI and turn it up to 11.
We finished, Mark. What's his week now in 2 weeks?
Back to me. In 2 weeks, and I can't remember, was Ali joining us again in 2 weeks?
Yep.
Yes. So in 2 weeks.
I will be still in Denver, but Ali will be there, yeah.
All right. So all of us who are not going to Denver will be on here, and we're going to talk about skill sets in an AI world. If I'm lucky, I'll get to actually talk a lot about the AI fluency model that I've been working on with a client recently, but I have to wait till they write about it before I get to talk about it much in public. So we'll have to wait and see. Other than that, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. Thanks to those who joined us and interacted along the way. I definitely have some homework. And in the funny world of my life with AI versus my life with Agile, if this had been an Agile conversation, I would have been going, here's the links to 15 books you might like. I've actually only read one AI book. So it's going to be links to a lot of thought leaders that I like who challenge me, much more than links to books. So we'll see you then.